Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Oh, hi guys. How you doing? Ezra Levant here. It is March 2nd. I can't even believe that. We are almost at the 1-year anniversary of the lockdown, and I have concluded that the lockdown is permanent. I know some people think, oh, just as soon as we're vaccinated, it'll be done. But you can see already that's not the case. You can see that the high priest of the pandemic, Dr. Fauci, says even once you're vaccinated, you still have to wear masks, you still have to social distance, you still can't go to gatherings. So they'll come up with a new excuse, a new variant. Sure, you were vaccinated against the Chinese variant, but there's the British variant. And by the way, there's 200 countries in the world, so that's going to go on for a while. And a few months ago, I'd say about 3, 4, 5 months ago, I started to sense on the streets of this city, at least, a hardening of opinion by the maskers. That they were no longer saying, "Oh, I'm wearing a mask, you're not." Okay, it's become a real religion for them, and they see themselves as enforcers of it, not just to be obedient, not just followers of the religion, but enforcers of it. I sense a harshness there. And as I said to David Menzies privately and on some other show, I think, I said, the police right now still remember the before times when swinging a baton and arresting people for political protest was not a normal thing, and they had to be extremely careful, and they probably knew they were doing something wrong, and the charges would likely be thrown out, and maybe they would get disciplined and maybe even lose a badge. But I think we're passing the threshold, the watershed, where police have now normalized political policing, lockdown policing, anti-free speech policing, smashing peaceful protesters. They've been doing it for so long that it is now normal to them personally. They don't have any emotional resistance to it anymore. It's normal to them corporately. The police department obviously permits it, instructs it, supports it, defends it. So there's really nothing to stop it. And if there is any policeman who has pangs of conscience, well, they're either going to just retire, go away, quit quietly, be reassigned to something else, or they'll get thrown out or demoted or whatnot. So I think that 1, 2, 3 years from now, this sort of brutal policing will become normal because it hasn't been stopped in its early stage. It will crowd out the more civil liberties oriented policing. So I feel that we are coming upon dark days, even though the virus itself has burnt itself out, statistically speaking, in Canada. Do you want to go to the Theresa Tam's national page? You know, the one that has the 10 provinces, the 3 territories, and you hover over it and it has the stats. I haven't looked at it in a week, granted, but I'd be willing to bet that the stats are plummeting in every single province, which paradoxically is precisely why you're going to see enforcement get stricter. Because if there is no external rationale to it, it must provide a rationale of its own. Perfect. So can you go to rate of total cases? Yeah, switch that to rate. And not of total cases, of active cases. So just to explain what we just did there, the total number doesn't really make sense because you want to know per 100,000 people. Otherwise, obviously, Toronto would have the most or whatever. And then active cases, who cares what it was a year ago? How many people are sick right now? So let's just start by hovering over British Columbia. So less than 100 people per 100,000. And you see that chart on the right? Just plunging. The rate of active cases of COVID-19 in British Columbia is, what's that, 88, is that what that says? Per 100,000. So fewer than 1 in 1,000 people has it. And just if they have it, That doesn't mean they're symptomatic. That doesn't mean they're sick. Certainly doesn't mean they're in hospital. But in any event, and I say obviously again, without any vaccines, it's plunging. Oh, by the way, look at that. Not a single case in all of Yukon. Do you see that? Like just, there is no one in the Yukon with it. There is one case in the Northwest Territories. Oh, excuse me. I said one. I meant to say 7. Go down to Alberta. You've got 100. Thank you very much, Justin. You correct me. That is 7 per 100,000. But there's less than 100,000 people in the Northwest Territories. So that number actually makes it look larger. Let me just check population Northwest Territories. There's only half 100,000. There's 45,000 people. So you are correct that that is per 100,000. But that number seems to exaggerate it because there's only 45,000 people in all of the Northwest Territories, and none of it, I don't know offhand the population, let me search it. There is slightly less, there's about 40,000 people in all of Nunavut. So when they say they have 20 cases per 100,000, rough numbers, that means they actually have only about 8 cases in the whole. So if you look at Canada's north cumulatively, in fact, switch out of rates, go up there and switch to number, or count as they call it. Yeah, look at that. So whereas in other provinces it diminishes the number, look at that. In the entire north, you have 11 cases, am I counting that right? In the entire north. In a land mass as large as Europe, Canada's north is as large as Europe. You have 11 cases, 0 in the Yukon, 3 in all the Northwest Territories. And I mean, I'm not going to spend time looking for it, but I bet there's not a single person in hospital in the north. Like if you literally have 11 cases in the north, I don't think anyone's in hospital. It's just a flu. Okay, go back to rate. Thank you. So, we just hover over them. We don't need to spend a lot of time. So BC, look at the graph on the right. That's what I'm pointing to. Alberta. Graph on the right, plunging. Like, look at that. Look at that graph. That's incredible. That's active cases. Saskatchewan, plunging. Manitoba, plunging. And I say again, no vaccines, people. Ontario, plunging. But let's hold here for a second. Do you see the numbers on the screen are cases, the rate of cases per 100,000 that are active. So as you can see here, Ontario's number, 72 per 100,000, is lower than British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Quebec. I'm going to leave out the very small population centers like Newfoundland, PEI, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and the North, because they're very, very modest population. So you have 5 guys get sick. Like, as we just showed you, you have like 4 guys get sick in the Northwest Territories, or 6 or whatever it is. And the numbers really move. But Ontario actually has the lowest rate of active cases in the entire country, even lower than Quebec, even lower than Alberta. Yeah, but even Quebec, yeah, go over to Quebec. It's still plunging too. And yet they have bizarre and harsh lockdowns. This is not about a virus, folks. If you have, can I switch back to actual number of cases, just out of curiosity? Count, yeah. So 10,000 people in the entire province of Ontario, population 14.5 million, are a case. Let's go to Ontario. Let's just do this. Let's just take a minute. Let's go to Ontario and see how many are in a hospital. Can you click on Ontario? This will give you to the province. Yeah, sure. So I should tell you that a number of these jurisdictions have made their statistics harder to find, not easier, because they want to obscure what we're showing here, which is that the pandemic in Ontario is actually the weakest anywhere in Canada other than the small population centers. In all the provinces I showed you, the rate of cases is plunging like a rock. I say again, this is not because of the vaccines, which simply have not arrived. It's just because it's done. Justin, I presume, is looking for stats in Ontario. I want to show you, according to Roman Baber, I got a count of like something like, it's hard to count the exact number of hospitals in Ontario. Depends what you call a hospital, I suppose. I have seen numbers like 490, 510, but let's just say there's approximately 500 hospitals in Ontario. I think they might be counting specialty hospitals, so I don't know if that quite applies, but let me put it this way. There's well over 400 hospitals in Ontario. If you include some of the specialty hospitals, which might not be fair to do, you're at 500. But just give me the 500 for a round number, okay? You might be right. There might only be 450 hospitals in Ontario that would take a COVID case. So I haven't checked these stats in over a week, but I'm going to guess that there's maybe 250 ICUs in the whole province. So in the entire province, I say again, we have approximately 500 hospitals. You have 677 people in the hospital at all, of whom 284 are on an ICU. So basically anyone in an ICU has two hospitals to themselves. On a ventilator is 189. I understand the ventilators aren't quite the solution they were once thought of being, but as you can see there, I'm not going to say that's zero. I wouldn't want to be in a hospital. I wouldn't want to be in an ICU. Then again, the average age of the deceased from this virus is 82, and the average victim has 3 underlying serious medical conditions. Example, diabetes, Alzheimer's, liver disease, kidney disease, heart attack, stroke. Yeah, so hospitalized, thank you. So is the black the ICU? Yeah, the black line is ICU, and the orange is hospitalization. So what was the peak there? Go back a little bit. What's that peak for hospitalizations? 1,700, and today we saw it's like 6 something, is that right? And what was the peak for ICU? Can you find that too? You're just sort of roughly guessing. So 397, so it was never even 1 per hospital. Yeah, even a year ago. Yeah, you could look through that chart, but it'd take a while. So it's over, folks. And even if it comes back for another little cycle like that, it's not even getting close to overwhelming the system. It never even got to 1 ICU patient per hospital. Just it never did. But do you doubt they're going to keep enforcing it? I'm going to read some super chats, and then let me tell you what Justin has. So as you know, and by the way, I know it's a Tuesday. Kian was on here yesterday, the Monday, because he was live from his COVID jail. Wasn't that quite something? That was just incredible. I'm grateful to him for doing that. So I thought, well, I'll come on today, because Sheila and Keean and everyone, David's doing something. I'm excited about some projects these guys are working on. I'm always excited about it. So I've got a couple Cuomo clips for you. Got 3 of those. I got a couple of church stories about the lockdown. And why don't we do this? I'm going to take some super chats just to get those out of the way, because I'm always slow on those, right? And then I see on this list, Justin, it says Keean COVID jail. Is that a prepared vid that he put up last night? Is that what that is? Okay, so let's go through the super chats, get those out of the way, and then we'll come back for the Keean COVID jail clip, which is very interesting. Let me call up the super chats. Thanks, everybody, for the super chats. I don't need to introduce you to that again. Basically, it's a way of getting your comment noticed by everybody, including by us, and we read it because YouTube shares 70% of the revenues with us, which is very helpful given they have largely demonetized us. So Martin Sabo, regular contributor, $20. Any update on child JT Christmas vacation? Dr. Seuss, 6 books banned now. What is next? Napkins shouldn't be white, so snowflakes are not triggered. Canada needs reset of kid JT. He should go to China. He loves so much. You know, there's some Twitter accounts I follow that are not very political, and there's one called Iowa Hawk Blog. Do you know that one, Justin? Dave Berg is his name. He's a little bit political, but mainly he's just sort of quirky humor, fun, pithy takes on things. He he likes the old-timey cars. Like he has this thing. It's just a coincidence that this mug says puppy on it. This mug came with our office when we came in, and I like this cup a lot because it says puppy. It's actually Puppy Basics. I think it's a magazine. I should probably subscribe. Can you go to that Dave Berg tweet? A little bit down. It's, yeah. The best anti-racism allegory for children ever written. And for those of you who know your Dr. Seuss, and I knew this from when I was a kid, that day all the Sneetches forgot about stars and whether they had one or not upon theirs. So there was these two kind of Sneetches, which of course are not people. They're a made-up critter, and some had stars on their belly and some didn't. And go to the next screen there. Apparently, the main lesson a lot of people took from the book is there's a lot of money in operating an identity machine. See, there was this huckster who came to town and saw that the Sneetches hated each other. So he made a machine that put the star on the belly of the Sneetches who didn't have them. And then he said to the other Sneetches, I'll make a machine to take the star off yours. And so he just raked it in by everyone not wanting to be like the others. And the story ends nicely where everyone was sort of confused. Okay, so who's cool and who's not? I got a star on my belly and you don't. And that day, all the Sneetches forgot about stars and whether they had one or not upon theirs. So it's a beautiful allegory. But as Dave Berg points out, look at the guy who got rich off it. The huckster who pitted them against each other and charged them money. It's a great story. And they're called Sneetches, I think. Have you ever read that one? It's a great one, isn't it? Imagine banning Dr. Seuss as racist. I agree with Dave Berg. That was the most enjoyable, readable, probably most popular anti-racism allegory ever written in the English language, which probably means ever written anywhere, because I don't think they specialize in anti-racism allegories in certain other languages. Caitlin A., $5 to NBC Nightly Broadcast, Jan 23rd. Play from timestamp 1330. They didn't isolate the virus. Okay, well, you don't have a link there, so that would take me a while to isolate, so I'm not going to do that now, but thank you, Caitlin. Martin Sable, again, I'm guessing every few months there will be a new COVID per country as excuses. Well, yeah, there's 200 countries out there, so get ready for 200 variants. Unjust on Trudeau, $5. How about Cuomo now? For a while there, you thought he may become the Democrat nominee. Oh, how times have changed for him. Thoughts? Yeah, I'll play. We got 3 clips lined up on him. I'll show them to you later. You got that new photo of him, right, holding that girl's face at the wedding? Yeah, that's quite something. Kevin Walker, $7. The pear character lifting some weights. Thank you, Kevin. Jewy, $5. I'm torn. I want DeSantis as president, but I want Florida to keep him as governor. Should he run? He absolutely should run. And Kristi Noem should be his running mate. So you got the North, you got the South, you got a man, you got a woman, you got 2 governors who have actually governed successfully. They're media savvy. Oh, the media hates both of them, but they both fight back, which is Trumpism without Trump. In his speech, and my show last night, I talked about Trump's speech at CPAC. And Trump sort of defined Trumpism last night, or on the weekend. He said it was America First-ism and making great deals. That's not actually what it is. That's maybe what he thinks it is. But Trumpism is the style of pushing back against sacred cows, not giving a damn what the media says, speaking bluntly, not with political correctness, saying what everyone is thinking but not willing to say. And yes, putting America first, or Trumpism in Canada would be putting Canada first. As opposed to say foreign aid, as opposed to say the United Nations and what the World Health Organization says. It's a disrespect for the partisan media because they are partisan, and a refusal to go along with the charade that they're all neutral. That's Trumpism. And what I like in both Kristi Noem and Ron DeSantis is they push back at the media lies. To me, that's Trumpism. Being firm and not going with the narrative framed by the left. And what I like about both Kristi Noem and Ron DeSantis is that they're not rude about it. They're firm, but they're not rude about it. So in some ways, that's the best of Trumpism without the stuff that actually alienated some folks. By the way, I think if people say they were alienated by Donald Trump's rudeness, I think they were just fibbing. I think they were just saying that to impress their friends. I swear a bit. Do you think how much do you think I swear? Do I swear more or less than the average person? Do you think I swear a little less than the average person? Okay. Justin says he thinks I swear a little bit less than the average person. I think that could be right. Now I know some people who are very careful about that. Like I used to work for a guy. I won't say who. I'll say it was Preston Manning. When I would say, "Oh my God," or "For God's sakes," he would tense up every time, and I didn't realize that he regarded that as taking God's name in vain. I'm talking 25 years ago when I worked for him. He just didn't like when I said, "Oh my God," or "For God's sakes," and I would just see him react. And I thought, "Geez, I don't need to antagonize Preston." So I would change it, "Oh my goodness," or "For heaven's sakes," or "For goodness sakes." And the thing is, it's not a big deal. You train yourself once, and then it's your habit. It's your habit. So it wasn't like an effort not to swear. It's not swearing, but it's a habit. But I think most people, like you hit your thumb with a hammer. I suppose you could say shoot. Or if you're like Flanders in The Simpsons, you say Oakley, Dokley, you say something goofy. But I think most people swear from time to time. And there's a reason it's called locker talk, is because guys, when they're in the locker talk, and when gals are in you don't think gals gossip? And so the thing about Trump is when he would swear a bit, or engage in locker talk, or say things that everyone else was thinking, or have a strong opinion about some celebrity, the media would act all shocked. But I think most people would say he's speaking plainly, and I got to tell you, no one swears more than journalists. No one drinks more than journalists. No one is more badly behaved than journalists. And I think people detect that. Like journalists are not goody two-shoes. They're not like pharmacists. I think pharmacists are very good people. Don't you think? I mean, not just because we need but like, have you ever met a pharmacist that you thought, what a terrible person? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like doctors and I like dentists fine, but there's something about a pharmacist. Sort of like a veterinarian. Like if you're a vet, I think you're a good person. I'm not saying there are no evil veterinarians out there, but that would be surprising. Because if you're an evil person, you're probably not going to show love for animals, right? And I think the same with pharmacy. I mean, you can be a heart surgeon, a brain surgeon, like a specialist, and that's like a fighter pilot mindset. You got to be a little bit arrogant. You got to be like, I don't want if God forbid I have an open skull surgery or whatever it's called, brain surgery or open heart surgery. I don't want a surgeon who's got self-doubt, right? I don't want someone, oh, I don't know. Like I want someone who thinks he's the best in the world. I want, like, you want that in your airline pilots. You know, you want that in your like jobs that are absolute. But a pharmacist isn't that. A pharmacist is, okay, the doctor has said, well, I'm going to get you the help you need, and I'm going to try and do it in like it's just a mindset. Journalists are the exact opposite. Like the exact opposite. Would you agree? Like pharmacists. Like you can go to any aspect of health. You chose pharmacy. I think that means you got a good heart. And you're probably not that selfish, and you're probably not mean. Again, I'm not saying there are no bad eggs. I mean, you just can't be that much of a stereotyper. There's going to be some rogue pharmacists, but if you had a Hollywood script and the bad guy was a pharmacist, an agent would say, no one's going to believe it. you know? Whereas, you know that Jeremy Irons movie where he played identical twins? Do you know that one? Can you Google it? Jeremy Irons, one of the finest actors. Dead Ringers. That's right. Can you give me a poster of that or something? Like he played a doctor twin brothers, he obviously, who engaged in diabolical experiments and also psychological. It was a very dramatic, like incredibly dramatic movie. I haven't watched it in 20 years. Yeah, okay, that's the poster. Can you give me a little bit from the trailer? Can you find the trailer for it? We know all about evil doctors, like Dr. Frankenstein, the Island of Dr. Moreau. You could even say the Jurassic Park evil scientists, right? Like that. So, but pharmacy? I want to show a clip from Dead Ringers because you know what? I haven't thought about that movie in 20 years. It's a hell of a movie. It's a freaky movie. Here we go. Take a look.
Mantle.
By every scientific measure, they are absolutely the same. They share everything.
You haven't had any experience until I've had it too. Bev, you've got to try the movie star. She's unbelievable.
Doctor, you've cured me. You mean to say there's two of them? They're twins, dear.
I think we should drop her, Bev. You drop her. I'm in love with her. Can't be love if it does this to you, can it?
Doctor, I think there's something wrong with you.
Patients are getting strange. What are they? For working on mutant women.
From David Cronenberg, who in The Fly made the fantastic real.
Get him out of here!
Radical technology was required. Something radical is definitely required.
Now, David Cronenberg makes reality the ultimate fantasy. Dead Ringers.
Separation can be a terrifying thing.
All right, maybe it wasn't as good as I remembered. But watching it, what was the year on that? It was a little bit over 1988. Okay, so that came out when I was 16. I probably watched it, you know, when I was 16, 17. Maybe I watched it in college or something. It sure seemed cool at the time. I mean, Jeremy Irons is extremely cool. Do you know him from other roles? You don't know him that well? I mean, he was from my generation. He was the voice of Scar in The Lion King, you might recall. He's got that, you know, he's just a handsome guy with that great accent and a certain bit of a posh style and that great voice. Give me his filmography. And you see what I mean? You could be an evil doctor. You can take the God complex of being a doctor. I think that is a real professional hazard of being a doctor. Pharmacists don't have that. You know, pharmacists are like the angels. The doctors have the God complex sometimes, and sometimes deservedly so. They do what can be seen as a miracle. Is there anything interesting Jeremy Irons was in as a filmography? Oh, is he in Justice League? I don't watch those. Yeah, so what do we got here? Yeah, I don't even know any of those. Law and Order. Pink Panther? That's not a surprise. All right. Well, I'll have to review it. I don't know why Dead Ringers. The Mission, oh my God, that he was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful in the movie. Have you seen The Mission? You've never seen The Mission? It came out the year you were born. You were born in 1986. Well, you got to start calling me Mister. If you were not born until 1986, that movie. First of all, the soundtrack there, Ennio Morricone, will make you cry. Can you play, I know we're getting off track here, this is my last indulgence on filmography. Can you play the trailer for The Mission? And whereas I was totally wrong about Dead Ringers, and it looked sort of lame, while you're looking for it, Robert De Niro in his prime, Jeremy Irons. The most exquisite, you know, we talked about Apocalypto. This is like 100 years after Apocalypto. The music alone, the scenery. Take a look.
Unfolds as we predict. Indeed, how could the Indians have supposed that the death of this unsung priest would bring among them a man whose life was to become inextricably intertwined with their own?
Tell them they must leave the mission.
They say it was the will of God that they came out of the jungle and built the mission. They don't understand why God has changed his mind. You should never have become a priest.
But I am a priest and they need me. If you die with blood on your hands, you betray everything we've done.
If might is right, love has no place in the world.
A man of war. A man of peace. A land of timeless beauty. An age of conquest. The laws of heaven. The way of the world. The lives in the balance. Now, from the director of The Killing Fields, comes this year's winner of the Best Picture Award at the Cannes Film Festival. The Mission.
Now, how did that look to you, Justin? That what do you think of the music? Dun 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 dun. The music is heavenly. Give me 30 more seconds on this. So Robert De Niro is a conquistador, which is Spanish for conqueror. Maybe this was in Brazil, so maybe he was called something Portuguese. And he gets into a duel with his brother over a woman. And he kills his brother. And he says, "What have I done with my life?" And you know, and there's this incredible scene, can you find it? Of De Niro. He goes to the church, which he has despised his whole life. He hates the church because they're there to do all do-goodery in the jungle. And the church says, all your weapons of war, your swords, your shields, we're going to put them in a big heavy ball, like in a net. And you are going to climb that waterfall and take your cruel machines of war up again, and again, and again, to repent for killing your brother. Look at that. In his feet, he's dragging. And that's the priest who gave him this awful task. Look at that. Look, and what is that? Liam Neeson? Oh my God, this movie's amazing. Look at and look at that. 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 And he goes down and he gets it again. Because he's not done. He's not done. And it ends, look at that. There's a little And they use the word Indian. I don't know what we're supposed to say, indigenous person now. Yeah, look at that, Liam Neeson. And it's a boy, there's a boy in the jungle who has been watching this conquistador. Look at that, he's not done. That's Robert De Niro when he was at his prime. Would you say? Oh my God, he looked good back then. And he's not, so you see the priest wanted to let him go there. He's not done. Can you fast forward to when the little boy sees him? There's a scene there. I think maybe it's a little, there, around there. A little further ahead. Like a boy, if I'm remembering from the year you were born, I'm remembering from 1986, so my memory might not be that good. If I'm not mistaken, maybe it's not in this clip, and maybe I'm misremembering, but if I thought that a little boy from the tribe came and set him free. And that was the redemption he needed. So this conquistador, who enslaved all these people, who murdered his own brother, repented and joined the church and became a missionary. And then the story just goes from there, Justin. And they teach, and I'm almost done. And there's a battle over the future of the mission. That's the name of the movie, The Mission. What is a mission? They're trying to convert these people to Christians, right? But there's other forces. There's Portugal, there's Spain, there's the Pope. Do we enslave these people? Do we steal their land? Do we push them over? What do we do? So Jeremy Irons and Robert De Niro, they love this mission. And some delegate from the Vatican comes all the way to Brazil or wherever this was. And they say, well, we better put on a good show. And so they teach these kids in the mission to sing these prayers so beautifully. And I'm a Jewish boy. I don't know these prayers, but I can hear the sounds of angels when I hear them. I don't have to understand the words. And the scene in this movie, when these young kids in the jungle of the Amazon sing the prayer, and I don't know if you can find that scene. And I don't think it was the Pope himself, I think it was some delegate of the Pope, was moved to tears. But he still sentenced the mission to be crushed. Oh my God, what a movie! Are you going to go see it? Are you serious? Like, what do you think? So what are the others? Let's make a list. Apocalypto, you know what? That's Lives of Others. That's a good one. You saw Apollo. That was a great one. Oh yeah, Death of Stalin. And now this one, The Mission. That's 5 movies. And how have my recommendations been so far? Apollo 11 was great. Apocalypto, that's like 100 years before The Mission. I watched it the other day when I was on the treadmill. Very violent. Lives of Others, good one. Death of Stalin. But The Mission, that's when I first heard Ennio Morricone, who later, if I don't want to guess wrong what else he did. All right. Thanks for letting me talk about my favorite movies. That one was from 35 years ago, is that right? My memory, I think, was fairly accurate. I just want to prove I'm not having these Joe Biden moments. Let's get back to the Super Chats. Larry Sullivan, $20. Thanks, Larry. Space Dave 2000, $5. Thank you. Can we start a class action lawsuit against the Peel region for those child abuse isolation instructions they put out? I've had enough time to sue. You know what? I'm just learning about class actions. We have some people in another province who are looking at class action. I got a memo from a lawyer. I need to understand them better. Class actions are not as common in Canada as they are in the United States, as far as I know, but they are a thing. I had no experience with them when I was a lawyer many years ago, and you need financing and staying power for a lawyer to be willing to do that, because you often don't get paid until, well, you don't get paid until the end of the day. I don't know how easy it is to have a class action in Canada. I think that's not a bad idea, though, when you have a mass tort situation like this, right? I like your idea. I like your thinking. Jewy, $5 Radisson is a quarantine hotel in both Canada and the UK. What's happening with that chain? Fishy. Well, listen, there's many different hotel chains that are part of this quarantine thing. And do you blame the hotel itself? You can, for some of the outrageous mismanagement we've seen lately, but I think it's really the government that's doing it. The government is saying, do this, do this, do this, and we'll pay you to do it. And if you are in the tourism business and have absolutely been devastated by the lockdowns, I can understand why you'd say, all right, well, this is legal. The government's paying us. We got this empty hotel because they've destroyed tourism. They say it's legal. I mean, how they mismanage it is a different question. To the trees, $5. Do a story on Muskoka. 0 in hospital, 216 total cases in a year, 195 resolved in lockdown. Yeah, it just makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. You can say that about schools. I don't think there's been a single, I think in all of Canada, have there been 3 cases that came from school in a year? Like, it's just BS. Jewy, $2. Focus on plummeting COVID deaths, not cases. Yeah, I have. Well, maybe not as much here as I should. Yeah, you know, they're making it hard to find data. Matthew Phillips, $14. I've never been so livid towards our first transracial prime feminist of Canada. Yesterday on Facebook, he had the nerve to say we're in a better place now than March of last year, followed by the usual BS. Yeah, we are most definitely not in a better place. Our economy is devastated. We don't yet know how many suicides, drug addictions, divorces, alcohol addictions, depressions, and mental illnesses of other sorts have come about. And our civil liberties have been flattened. So Justin Trudeau lied about that. But politicians of many stripes lie. It's the media that has gone along with it that's the most disgraceful. Julian Buckle, $5. It would seem our Charter of Rights wasn't worth the paper it was written on if it can be forgotten as easily as it's been. Well, you're right. I mean, during the Cold War, someone always pointed out to me that the Soviet Union had a constitution and the United Kingdom did not have a formal constitution. Freedom of speech apparently was enshrined in the Soviet constitution, but not in the non-existent British constitution. And I think the point that whoever told me that back in the day, which I still believe was true, I think the point was, you got a piece of paper, that don't mean nothing unless it's given life by people. By whom? By the entire establishment, the police, the prosecutors, the bar, the lawyers, the judges, the media, the legislators. So if you could have this wonderful legacy of freedom, but if the current generation just doesn't care, well, you're out of luck. Zona Rosa Smith, $7. Will we need to vote Liberal next election? I keep calling my Conservative MPP and Doug Ford is a renegade, basically. Well, I mean, who's worse, Doug Ford or Aaron O'Toole? You know, can you call up Ali Tagwa's Twitter feed? Ali was one of the founders of the Post Millennial, and I follow him on Twitter. I think he's an interesting guy. He came on the show once to talk about a new business project. And he had this tweet about Aaron O'Toole. Aaron O'Toole is running all these ads, trying to introduce himself on his biographical basis. Maybe you've seen some of these Twitter tweets if you follow him. Otherwise, you won't see it anywhere. He says, I was in the armed forces, which he was, and I was in business, which I guess he was. I don't know what business. And then he talks about how he met his wife or something, and that's all very nice. And that's, I think it's just go to his Twitter feed, Ali Tagwa. Do you know how to find that? Yeah, throw it on the screen and I'll show you the one I'm referring to. Scroll down a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Conservative Party of Canada really starting to feel like it's in zombie mode. Instead of asking me if I know O'Toole, Do exciting things that get me to actually know him. Show, don't tell. And here's what I think he means. All these things, all these ads. I'm Aaron O'Toole. Let me tell you my biography. I'm Aaron O'Toole. That's not going to make an impact. I suppose it's good to know that he actually served in the armed forces. That shows some loyalty and patriotism. And a connection with, I think, things that are generally regarded as blue collar. But Ali's point is excellent, which is, if you're just trying to get me to know you like you're studying your CV, that's not going to move the needle. But if you go out and do something incredible, people say, hey, that guy. Oh, that's the guy who did this. That's the guy who's fighting for that. Like Trump's speech the other day, which I did my show on last night. He talked about how transgenderism in sports is going to kill women's sports. And he took it on. And so people aren't talking about Trump's biography. That's not why they support him, although that may have been an early reason. It's because he says something that we're all thinking, and he says it with courage and bluntness, and people say, yeah! And he talked about cancel culture, and he talked like, how about if Aaron O'Toole actually did something that we would then say, wow, that's good, instead of Aaron O'Toole to say, wow, I'm good. No, don't tell us how good you are. Just go out there and just kill it. Just go out there and do it, and just crush it, and just fight for free speech, and fight to get out of UN control of the World Health Organization, and fight for jobs, and go out, do something real, tangible, and let us say, wow, that's awesome, instead of just telling us how awesome your CV. I don't know. I thought maybe that's an obvious point, but it's show, don't tell. That's what it is. Joyful Heart, $10. How is it that people entering Canada are forced to take a very invasive test when they are healthy without any informed consent obtained, detailing the reason for the test, side effects, etc.? Yeah, can you call up the Quarantine Act, Section 14? Just Quarantine Act Canada, and then scroll down to Section 14. I want to show you something, and I don't quite know the answer to this, and I should probably get a lawyer to help me answer this. Because Section 14 of the Quarantine Act, which I don't know off by heart, but I know it substantively. Here we go. Any qualified person authorized by the minister may determine whether a traveler has a communicable disease or symptoms of one, using any screening technology authorized by the minister that does not involve the entry into the traveler's body of any instrument or other foreign body. So that's Section 14. And every single test they're doing, they jam a swab into your nose, or if you go to Beijing, by the way, they jam the swab into your tush. How are these mandatory tests lawful when I just quoted you Section 14 of the Quarantine Act? I need a lawyer to answer that for me. I'm having a tough time getting answers. We've got so many lawyers. I don't get, what's an answer to that one? I don't know. John Yoga, $5. Hey, Ezra is formerly known as Yorgi. Anyways, we are coming up on a year of COVID lockdowns. What the hell was the point? Well, that's the thing. It was its own point. It was not a means to an end. It was the end itself. The lockdownism is its own thing. It wasn't to fix a problem. It was the new thing itself. Viking Insane, $5 on May 10, 1933. University students in 34 towns across Germany burned over 25,000 books. Books by Albert Einstein and Sigmund Freud went up in flames. Yeah, well, we're doing that, but these days we just deplatform and delete things. Just ban things. It's easy when you don't have to burn paper, you just delete. My own book, China Virus, was taken down twice by Amazon. When we sent lawyers to find out why, they just said, you contradict official sources. They never told us which officials, what sources, and on what subject. Was it China? Like, official means anything. China? Trudeau? UN? What sources? And by the way, you can contradict someone, and you can A, both be right, neither be right. They can be right or you can be right. For example, you might recall that in January of 2020, the World Health Organization published a tweet. You could find it really quickly, I bet. WHO tweet person to person. would be what I would type in. It'll pop up. I think it was like January 10th or January 14th, 2020. You don't get more official than the World Health Organization of the United Nations quoting Chinese government sources. Here's that tweet. Thank you. Preliminary investigations conducted by the Chinese authorities have found no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission of the novel coronavirus identified in Wuhan. Look at the date on that, Jan 14, 2020. Look at how many times that was retweeted. And then almost 70,000 and 27,000 likes. That's a lie. Right? It was a lie. Like, not just an inaccuracy, that's a lie. That was a propaganda lie. And so if I contradict this official source, it's true I contradict this official source. And I'm right. It's incredible to me that that source remains up. Isn't it? Let's keep going. Keean, Mark, $10. I was kicked out of Nordstrom Chinook Mall, Calgary. I can't wear a mask due to my Stokes. I think this just like kicking someone out because they're peoples of color. Am I wrong on that? Shout out Justin. You know what? I meant to have it ready, and I don't quite, but we are building a new page. I think it's built. I just got to do the video. Announcing our fight back for people who are kicked out of stores for mask exemptions. So maybe I better hurry up on that. The website's done. I just got to do the video. Viking Insane, $2. Thanks, LBT, $5. Most famous to me was The French Lieutenant, Women with Meryl Streep. I have never watched that, and I probably should. Me, C, $5. Scariest screen Dr. Gregory Peck as Dr. Mengele in Boys from Brazil. Love Rebel. Thank you, Ezra. Well, you know, what's the one where Dr. Strangelove? Did you ever watch that? That was a crazy Cold War movie. Yeah, doctors can be diabolical. Never heard of a diabolical pharmacist. Journalists, it's the rare journalist who's nice. Would you agree with me on that? Everybody here is nice. But if you are a writer for BuzzFeed or Vice, like the really cruddy, like the Huffington Post, you actually can't be nice because it's all about disparaging, tearing down, gotcha, digging through someone's teenage social media posts and trying to deplatform them and cancel them. You have to be shocking, you have to be disgraceful, especially in these new media. BuzzFeed, Vice, Huffington Post, but CNN, Politico, Washington Post are just as bad. So I think that pharmacists are amongst the nicest people you ever meet. I think journalists are amongst the worst people you'll ever meet. They're interesting. Oh, they're interesting. They've been places, they've seen things, they've met fancy people, and they are low. So they're interesting. And to close my point that I opened 40 minutes ago, these are the folks who say, I can't believe Donald Trump swore because butter wouldn't melt in my mouth. I've never I don't even know what swearing is. I don't know what swearing is. And Donald Trump has hurt my virgin ears. And he said something that was accurate but uncomfortable. So I'm going to denounce him as being uncouth. And I prefer a doddering Alzheimer's patient like Joe Biden, because he never says anything mean, although actually, he says a lot of things mean. Like, it's incredible how brutal and mean he is and thuggish he is because he doesn't have the cognitive strength. So when he gets a little stressed out, he says, well, can you get that clip when he says, what? You know that one when a journalist asks him something? Like, it was just as, he lashes out. Like, his gentlest lash out is, come on, man. But he calls people names. Listen up, fat. He threatens people with physical violence. The guy's 78. He's threatening people. And it's just his panic mode. So there's this myth that Joe Biden is couth and polite. I forget that journalist, but you know, when the journalist didn't even stutter, but Joe Biden mocked him as if he had. It's crazy. So yeah, these journalists who for 4 years have pretended that they've never heard us swear before, never heard Locker talk before, and my God, they certainly we'd never engage in that before. Yeah. So I closed that point from 40 minutes ago. On Justin Trudeau, Irons was good in The Man in the Iron Mask. Yeah, I seem to recall that one also. Fraser McTurney, $20. Last Sunday at our rally in Hamilton, I had a very nice conversation with 3 cops. As I was walking away, one of them ran up and handed me a trespass letter from January 31st rally. I have not been tried and I know we'll win the ticket. Yeah, you know what? Like I say, over time, these cops will become conditioned to be the kind of bullies that you are referring to. And they are being conditioned and they are normalizing their misconduct. RL, $10. I appreciate yours and your staff's hard work. Thank you. Viking Insane, $2. Since you like 1986, so some WrestleMania 2. Okay, we're out of time because I talked too much about The Mission. Great movie. Zed Comedina, $20. Research how media suppressed information about effectiveness of ivermectin, old safe medication with COVID-19 repelling and healing power against all strains. More details on Twitter account, Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care. Well, same thing with hydroxychloroquine. That was one of Trump's jokes on the weekend at CPAC, is that he says, I should have said I'm against the wall, because then the media party would say they're for the wall. He's exactly right. Because Trump said hydroxychloroquine might work, the entire political media industrial complex said that has to be bad, when in fact it works. Bracketor, $5. Since it's laid back day, whatever happened to token black hire Jay Feza? I can't even tell you how much I miss him for his sophomoric soft shoeing. Well, he wasn't a token hire. I'll tell you exactly why we hired him. I saw him at the Jordan Peterson protest, the one that lit the whole fire. I saw all these people shouting against Peterson, and I saw this young man fighting for free speech at, I'm not going to say physical risk, but certainly at reputational risk. And I remember saying, who is that young man? And I remember saying, I know almost everything I need to know about him. The fact that he would stand with Jordan Peterson and not be shouted down and stand up for free speech, that's why he was hired. I remember the moment. And I learned a few more things about him. I said, hire that young lad. So that's why we hired Jay. I don't know what he's up to now. He hasn't worked for us for about 3 or 4 years. But that's why we hired him. Unjust on Trudeau, $2. Man in the Iron Mask shows what masks do to people. I can't remember that movie. I'm having a Biden moment. That's probably 30 years ago, right? I can't remember that. Wes Jones, $5. Saying Indian is fine. I'm Ojibwe. I've always referred to myself as an Indian. I come from an Indian reserve and recognized by the Indian Act. Yeah, like I said the other day, I think of Chief Clarence Louie. I've never seen him not wearing Indian brand clothing, and I'm pretty sure he's got an Indian brand motorcycle. And I truly believe the Indian brand motorcycle is the coolest motorcycle in America. I just think it is. It is beautiful. And we looked at one of their, the Scout? We looked the other day. I think it was $11,000. Now that's not nothing. But I tell you, you buy a piece of modern art. That thing is a piece of modern art. Forget about driving it. Can you get that I think it was a gorgeous red, it was sexy. And I think it was like 11 grand. Do you remember the price? Or maybe that was in US dollars. Obviously, you buy a motorcycle, you're going to ride it. But that thing, you could stare at it, and it would be endlessly interesting. And my point of mentioning that is, I'm not going to take too much time because we talked about, oh my God, look at that. Starting at 11 grand, okay, that's US money, so it's more than that. That is so unbelievable. I'm not a motorcycle guy, obviously. But, once you see this, how can you look at anything else? That's unreal. My point is, if that's called Indian, and that's the coolest thing made out of metal, they're not using the word Indian pejoratively. They're using it for all the innate characteristics of that word that they believe applies to their product. Strong, independent, outdoors, muscular, courageous, fast, wind in your, every positive. Companies don't name themselves after things that are uncool and unstrong. I hate this whole cancel culture, and you know what? I wonder if they've contemplated changing their name. I hope they never do. But these days, you never know. Martin Sable, $5, 10 will probably claim suicides are just COVID deaths. I wonder how many politicians, including Justin Trudeau, got a vaccine in secret. I don't know if Trudeau would get one in secret or if he would avoid one. I mean, he's not in the high-risk group. Akasha of the Nile, $5. Ezra, have you seen Trudeau's latest blooper saying they are developing new strains? I have. It was just a blooper. Brian Moyer, $5. 300,000 businesses will not reopen. 2.7 million jobs lost. 200,000 businesses will fail within 5 years. 2 million jobs lost. COVID cure is worse than the disease. Yeah, it's not about the virus anymore. It hasn't been since last April. Todd Pac-Man, $140? Todd, thank you. Just a drop in the bucket for the fight the fines you've been doing. What a great legacy to leave for your children to look back on, see what their dad did to stand up to the powers that ought not be. Keep fighting the good fight. Well, Todd, that's such a nice donation, and that's such a nice thing to say. And appreciate that. And we have over 500 cases. I'd have to get an update on the number of cases, but it is in the hundreds. And we do get bills every day. So thank you very much for that. Leonard Noel, $20, thanks. Lynn, $5. I would donate to fight for mask exemptions. Shout out to Justin and Rebel Team. Well, we'll have that new mask exemption page up as soon as possible. I'm sorry I'm late on that. Keean Mark, $2. Joe Biden said the N-word last week. I'm unaware of that, but I'm sure he said it before. He's a Democrat. You know that the South in the Civil War were Democrats. You know that the Klan were Democrats, right? Julia A, $21. Thanks, Julia. I think we're caught up, but I don't think we actually spent a minute on the headline of today's live stream, which is Keean stripped to COVID jail. So I think we ought to do that before we go, right? So why don't we start playing that, and let's get a couple minutes, and I might come on back. So here's Keean from the COVID jail in Calgary near the airport. Take a look.
So I'm standing in the Calgary airport, and there's absolutely nobody. I told them that I don't want to take an invasive test because I know I have a right to a non-invasive test. And public health, Justin Trudeau's lackeys, they just left. They fled when I called my lawyer. They just disappeared. Watch this.
So this is who you would ask the questions to.
Great.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm from public health.
Great. Just the people I wanted to talk to. I've been told that I have to get a test.
Yep.
And I understand the Quarantine Act says that I can refuse a foreign object being put in my body. It's section 14.1 of the Quarantine Act, screening technology. It says any qualified person authorized by the minister may, to determine whether a traveler has a communicable disease or symptoms of one, use any screening technology authorized by the minister that does not involve the entry into the traveler's body of any instrument or other foreign body. So I would like to not
do the test?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
That's your prerogative. We put it out to local law enforcement to see if they're going to take any action for non-compliance, that we put that in their hands.
Sure.
All we do is just then flag you as being non-compliant with the current laws that are in place, but we are in no way able to force anything like you said that's into your body.
But that's
never
be
able to do that.
But that's the law. So why would law enforcement be able to penalize me for following the law and practicing my rights to not accept this?
Well, because this is a public health emergency order put in place that to protect the public health, we are testing all international travelers.
It says you have the right to do that. You just don't have the right to do it with an object going into my body. If there's any, way to.
Currently, we don't have any non-invasive tests.
Okay. You don't have any non-invasive tests?
No.
That's not my problem.
So I don't know what else I can say to you. You've read the Quarantine Act.
Yeah.
And if you've read the Quarantine Act, you are also aware of the enforcement actions that can be taken in non-compliance issues.
Mm-hmm.
So really, your actions are in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you do decide to do, we just follow up as per our operations. So if you are non-compliant, then we do have to flag you up.
Well, would I be able to call my lawyer then before we make a determination?
I will not be speaking with your lawyer.
No, I'm calling my lawyer.
Okay.
So now I'm standing here just waiting. I mean, I don't want to break a law. I've told them this time and time again. I don't want to break any laws. I want to go to the quarantine hotel. I just don't want to take a test that goes in my body. Justin Trudeau doesn't get to determine what goes in Keean Bexte's body. He doesn't get to determine what goes in your body. It's just a fundamental right of ours. And the law even says it. And they just are not prepared for any sort of alternative test. Yeah. I've been told that in Toronto there's a gargle test that I could take.
It's not here.
It's not here.
No.
Why? That seems like...
objected to it probably.
Yeah.
Otherwise they could have thought of it.
Nobody objected.
Yeah.
I just, the public health just left, right? Like they just disappeared. I would like to talk to someone who can tell me what my rights are. And it doesn't seem like the nurse, you're a nurse, right?
Yeah,
so that's not your job.
We're not with the government, so we have no idea.
Yeah.
Possibly.
DHEC
would be the ones that we call, so you've already talked to them.
The point of this was for me to go to a quarantine hotel. Frankly, that's why I went to Florida. I went to Florida so that I could come back and see the conditions that Canadians are being forced to live in. They're being sexually assaulted in these prison camps that Justin Trudeau has set up. We've been looking into them for a long time. We've been reporting on them, and Justin Trudeau's CBC has been telling us that it's a conspiracy, that they don't exist. We know they exist, and I want to go to one. I want to see what's inside of it. I want to see the conditions people are living in. I want to see what Justin Trudeau's doing to Canadians, their rights that are being violated, I'm assuming, the just atrocious food that they're eating. I want to see if there's locks on the doors. You know what? I don't give a shit. I'm going to go to a COVID jail. I'm going to check in. I paid for it. It costs an insane amount of money. If you want to help with that, it's at nocovidjails.com. I'm going to go there and see what's happening. I'm going to go check in. I'm going to document the whole thing. And what are they going to say? No, don't come to the hotel. I paid for it. I'm going. I'm leaving the airport. We're going to see what's going to happen. Hi, just checking in. Sorry?
Can I help you?
Yes, I have a room.
Kian?
Yeah. This is the quarantine
Okay.
place, right?
You will be assisted over here, sir. Yeah, by Omcar.
By
Omcar. Yes. I have someone checking in and doing isolation.
I can help you here.
Is this form for you guys or for the government?
For us.
February 28th, eh?
Yep.
So I can't go to the hot tub?
No. But you get 4 fresh air breaks. You can
4
schedule-
fresh air breaks?
Yes.
Four
you can
fresh
just
air
co-
breaks.
Just call the front desk and schedule a time with them.
Per day?
Per day, yeah.
80, I call someone?
Yes. So that you can place an order for the snack and for the dinner for tonight.
Okay.
And they will also take your order for next day breakfast.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, it's a strange situations these days.
It's not your fault, it's Justin Trudeau's fault. Thinking he can put Canadians in jails. This is basically jail.
Yeah, it sounds like that, but we'll treat you in a much
Oh, I'm
better
sure he will. But I should be allowed to go home, see my partner, and I was told that the locks had been removed from the doors. Did you hear that?
I'm sorry?
The locks have been removed from the doors.
Walks.
Locks, like deadbolts.
Not really.
So that hasn't been the case here?
No.
Okay.
When you enter, one key has to go inside this slot here.
Okay.
And it stays here for the light.
Sure. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
The risks of me being in this hotel are greater, with me being here than if I just went home. These hotels should be closed down, and actually the Conservative opposition has called for a suspension of this program. I don't know why they didn't just call for an abolition of the whole thing, because this is a joke. This is dangerous for women who are traveling, who are being sexually assaulted in their hotel rooms. It's dangerous for everyone. I have my own issue now. You know, my bags were lost, and in it was my prescription medication, my toothbrush, and all of the rest of my clothes. Now, some people are going to say, you know, why weren't you traveling with that in your carry-on? Well, it's because I have other equipment and I have a job to do. Right when I hit the ground, I needed to be ready and traveling light. So that's why it was in my luggage, and it was lost. And I think other people could be in this situation too. Now, in my case, this medication prevents me from developing cancer. It's a prevention medication, and I need to take it. And Justin Trudeau is stopping me from doing that because I can't get a hold of anyone right now. I've called a few times just in me being in this hotel room. Can't get to the front desk. There's a lot going on here, and we're going to digest it all and put it into more videos. You can see them all at nocovidjails.com. If you want to help me out with the cost of this, I have, for example, an internet router that I brought with me. It costs $300 just for the month so that I can be sure I have internet. The Wi-Fi here is terrible. I've tested it out, and I'm glad I brought that. The hotel cost me about $1,000. It cost other people more. Just $1,000 for me. If you can help me out with those costs, because of course we're here not to enjoy the gulag. We're here to get the inside scoop of what's going on so that we can show travelers who are coming to Canada or even just Canadians who are interested in knowing what is going on in their own country, what is happening. So go to No COVID Jails if you want to see more to this story and help out. Thanks so much for tuning in, and stay tuned, please.
It's sort of incredible. I mean, why would you make someone go to a government hotel? Now, Keean went over there himself, but normally they have a shuttle to drive you over. You're in the elevator with other people. You're in the lobby with other people. Your food is brought to you. How is that better than if you're quarantining at home? If you believe in a quarantine, and let's put aside any debate on that for a minute, why do you have to do it in a government hotel? And why do you have to bill someone an extreme amount of money, $800, $1,000, $2,000? How can you simply foist that cost on people? Where's the medical sense? Where's the legal sense? Where's the constitutional sense? Where's the epidemiological sense? It was just cooked up by Trudeau. I don't even know why. Do you really believe that Justin Trudeau himself has not left the country since the pandemic began? Do you really believe that his family has not left the country? I don't. I just don't believe them. I mean, we know they lie about their Christmas vacations. Trudeau was caught in a series of lies about taking an illegal free vacation worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to a private island in the Bahamas owned by the Aga Khan. So we know he has the means, the motive, and the opportunity to lie about leaving the country for personal reasons, for vacations. Do you really doubt that he is? And that his gold-digging wife, who was the one behind that Caribbean trip, do you really doubt they have? I just don't believe them if they would say otherwise. All right, it's 1:13. Great video by Kian. He's going to be on my show tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to go because I got so much work to do. Great to be with you today. I received an email from someone who is very much against my movie reviews and called me a jealous bitch. I'm not kidding. I was just reading that. Can I show you? No, I don't want to put his name up. I'm going to send it to you because you're not going to believe me. You know what? Did you get it? Jealous little bitch Ezra. So weird, I offer to help you, yet you keep pushing Abrahamic Christian hatred, particularly Ezra in his live shows with his personal film opinions that detract and destroy from any political subject. I am totally not anti-Christian. When I say I love the movie, The Mission, I'm just saying I love the movie, The Mission. And when the Conquistador, played by Robert De Niro, does the most awful thing in the world, in a love triangle with his brother, and he murders his brother. It's a deeply Christian moment where this outrageous, murderous conquistador is suddenly gripped by a fear of God and completely changes his life, goes into deep repentance and atonement and self-sacrifice at the instruction of the church. That was an incredible moment. And the symbolism of using his military tools as his penance. How on earth could you call either A, that movie, or B, my comments on it, anti-Christian? And another jealous bitch, as far as I'm concerned, Ezra. I don't know where the jealous part comes in. Bitch, I presume that's just like a generic insult. I don't know. But that, if that was a movie review, that would be a thumbs down. Listen, Justin, you watched Apollo 11. I was gushing about that movie. What was the word you used? Exhilarating? Justin just said it made him jealous that he wasn't alive at that time. That's so right. You know, I wasn't alive that time either, I don't think. Was that 69? Or was it 72? Because I was born in 72. But yeah, that time, what a time to be alive. What a moment of unity for all of mankind. What an amazing moment. And yeah, the movie Apollo 11 is amazing. Apocalypto, I rewatched that the other day. It's very violent, but it was still an incredible story. And a very Christian story in the last 5 minutes. Lives of Others, I recommend it. It's a little bit depressing. Death of Stalin, I'm just going through the recommendations that I mentioned. Death of Stalin. I had a viewer email me and said they really liked the Death of Stalin. And they watched it based on my recommendation. Someone else said they watched Apocalypto based on my recommendation. Well, let me say, of all these recommendations, just in terms of sheer beauty, the mission, the opening scene in The Mission, where the priest goes over the waterfall. And the music, when was the last time you heard me go on about the musical score, the soundtrack of a movie? I never do. Do I? You ever heard me talk about a soundtrack of a movie? Really, maybe? Yeah, I can't remember specific examples. I mean, I like, can you grab Angry Birds, Sound of the Police? Like, I like little moments where the soundtrack's just perfect. Only give me about 10 seconds because I don't want to get a strike. But Angry Birds, which you think is a kids movie, and it is a kids movie, but I think it was my favorite movie of the year. There's this it's The Speeding Ticket, and the soundtrack there is perfect. Just give me 10 seconds of that. I mean, I'm not a big soundtrack guy, but
Your Honor, to be honest, I was. My one problem, that's a different story than you told last time.
That's the sound of the police. That's the sound of the beast. That's the sound of the police. That's the sound of the beast. That's the sound of the police. That's the sound of the beast. Drinks on me, guys.
that's just such a great movie. That's such a great scene. That's such a great song. I'm going to add to Apollo 11, Apocalypto, Lives of Others, Death of Stalin, and The Mission, Angry Birds. The original, not the sequel. Have you watched the first Angry Birds? No, and I know the answer is because I don't have children. Who would watch a cartoon called Angry Birds about a child's video game? I was so against that movie because I thought, I am not going to watch a movie based on a video game. I'm not that kind of guy. I am not the kind of guy. I'm not going to, I have played Angry Birds. It's fun. I haven't done it in a long time. I'm not going to watch a movie based on a video game. It has nothing to do with the video game other than it's the birds, and then there's the pigs, and they do occasionally fly. But it's funny. Oh my God, is it funny, and like all the good kids movies, it's funny for the kids, but it's funny for the adults. And the kids don't even understand the adult jokes, and they're both going along like that. The best movies for kids are the ones that make the adults laugh hard about other things or the same thing a different way. I acknowledge I have not watched Angry Birds by myself. That would be like going to Disneyland by yourself. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think you go to Disneyland without kids. I think that's too weird. And I agree, I wouldn't recommend Angry Birds if you don't have kids, but you know what, why not? You're bored. People watch anything these days. They're bored. Anger management is a very funny, it's treated very funny. That whole scene, there was the social worker running the anger management. There's this bird who's angry. And he just is angry at the whole world, and he's sentenced to anger management, and the judge is hilarious. I think the judge is Keean, one of the two, I forget. So he's sentenced to anger management, and the lady running anger management is so perfectly cast. You know, just so nice, but she uses these leftist words that drive the angry bird angrier. And he's trapped in there, but he makes some friends in this anger management, and they go on a mission, and it's a great story. But if you hate the BS of anger management and you need to train your unconscious bias, you will love this movie. I don't even know how it got made, this movie. There are a lot of messages in this movie that are right-wing. And the angry bird is the hero in the movie. His anger and skepticism is redeemed and proven prophetic. You know what? I'm going to revise my earlier advice. You can watch Angry Birds if you're not a kid. You can. And there's nothing, like, it's not baby talk. It's not like, in fact, there's some funny scenes at the Lake of Wisdom. There's a Lake of Wisdom that is so funny. I'm going to stop there. Oh, I'm tempted to play a few seconds from the Lake of Wisdom. Can we grab just a few seconds? You know what? I just want to prove that I am not, as my letter writer says, a jealous bitch. I'm not jealous. It's the opposite. I want to share my love for great cinema. Give me just a few seconds of the Lake of Wisdom. Angry Birds, Lake of Wisdom. And yes, is this childish humor? Yes. Can grown-ups laugh at childish jokes? Yes. What's his name? Josh Gad? Is that the name of the actor? Who plays that yellow bird? Very funny. Give me.
Wow.
Be honest. Do I sound any wiser?
Oh, way wiser. You were kind of dumb before. I can say that now.
That water is no joke. I can literally taste the intelligence and wisdom circulating through my body now.
Nobody's here. I mean, nobody's used this place in years.
Flip ahead to when they realize what the Lake of Wisdom really is.
Get out of there.
Well, this is funny too.
Oh, wow.
That's Mighty Eagle. That's Mighty Eagle. A symbol for America. Okay, now what? These guys have just been swimming in the Lake of Wisdom. Is this childish? Yes.
Oh man.
But is it also a joke? But go back. Give me a few more seconds.
Ugh. Horrible turn of events. Horrible. Ooh.
Stay with me. That. How can you not laugh? The scrubbing of the tongue with a rock. Okay, thank you. Movie of the year. I am not joking. It is so funny, but it's a great story. It's an odyssey. It's a buddy movie. It's, I don't know, it's a political allegory. Yeah, it's the characters are from the video game. I would say Angry Birds is in my top 10 movies of all time. You know what? Maybe I would put one of the Godfather movies in top 10 of all time. But maybe that's just, again, a young man's memory. Maybe it's not that great. I think Ex Machina. You saw that one? Would you agree with me? That was sort of really blow your mind. As I said once before, that's the only movie in my life where the second it was done, I watched the whole thing again. Because it blew my mind, and I wanted to see it all over again now that I understood the code to it. Ex Machina, spelled E-X-M-A-C-H-I. Just give me the photo. We're not going to play any clips because I know we're over our limit. And I don't want people to call me a jealous bitch for that. But Ex Machina will blow your mind. And it is set 5 minutes in the future. Facial recognition, privacy, tracking you, artificial intelligence, robots, big tech titans, Ex Machina. What's the name of the young lady who's the actress there? Actually, all three of the actors there are outstanding. Just excellent. I forget their names. Actually, I think they're all foreigners. But they play, they all speak in a... Alicia Vikander, right? I think she had Oscar Isaac, and who's the third guy? I think Vikander played Tomb Raider, Laura, the Tomb Raider. Like she's a great actress. She was great in this. Yeah. Okay, give me 5 seconds. Can you play the dance scene? Dance scene, Ex Machina. This dance scene from Ex Machina, I had never heard of the movie before. I'd never heard of it. And I don't know how, but I stumbled across this dance scene. And it was a great dance scene. And I understood enough that the lady in this dance scene is a robot. And the guy with the beard is like the Zuckerberg Bezos character. And you got to give a little bit of volume.
Go ahead, dance with her. Dance with her. No? You don't like dancing? She does.
She does, because he programmed her. It's a robot.
Come on, buddy.
And she's unhappy.
Long day of Turing test, you gotta unwind.
But she loves to dance, and he knows that because he built her.
You tore up her picture. I'm gonna tear up the fucking dance floor, dude. Check it out.
And now, the Zuckerberg Bezos, he built this robot to dance with them. They're both pretty good dancers. She's a robot who has to do this. And that kid can't believe it because he's fallen in love with the robots. I saw that and I thought, I want to see the rest of this movie. What the heck is that all about? Amazing. I would say that is maybe my best movie, my favorite movie of all time. I'm watching Gattaca again. You know Gattaca? Have you ever seen that one? Oh my God! Okay, just put the poster up. Just put the poster up. I'm not going to play a clip from it. Gattaca, first of all, you know what the phrase sepia tone means? It's that slightly, brown photo look that makes, that for some way makes everything feel sentimental. The whole movie feels like it's in those sentimental colors. Color, but a little bit black and white. I think that's called sepia. Am I right? So Gattaca is also a near future movie where, you don't get it, but you see Uma Thurman, and Who's that Brit on the right there? What's his name? Help me out with the names. Jude Law. And who's the hero of the movie? I forget. They were all so young and perfect. And it's about a world that transitions from, you know, you meet someone, you fall in love, whatever. Ethan Hawke, that's right, Uma Thurman. Uma Thurman's amazing. So in this movie, it's at that moment in history where people stop having kids normally, and they now have perfectly genetic selected kids. So it is you, and it is your wife, but they choose your absolute best version of you, and they sort of artificially inseminate, but I forget the technicalities. So you can weed out any genetic diseases or predilections, or so you'll choose the tallest version of yourself, the smartest, the healthiest. You'll weed out physical illness, mental illness. And so it's this new beginning in society where everyone new is not perfect, no, not at all, but the best version of themselves because they were selected to be that way. So if you would have 100 children, naturally, the absolute best, smartest, brightest, fastest would be the one that you would get. So at this cutoff in time, everyone born before that is regular with your flaws. And everyone born after that is not perfect, but like a super person. And so, what's a job interview other than a blood test, right? And how can you ever get ahead if you were born as a real person? Well, this is the story of someone born real who says, damn it, I can do it. But to get ahead, he has to sort of fake it by doing a deal with a super person who gets into like a car accident, like an Olympic athlete, and say, look, I need to make a deal with you to use your blood for blood samples, use your urine for urine samples. I'm going to try and fake it. I'm going to try and pretend to be a super person that you were, because I want to be an astronaut. And there's no way in hell they would ever allow a regular person to be an astronaut. So Ethan Hawke, is that who it was? So Ethan Hawke makes a deal with Jude Law. Jude Law was this Olympic athlete, like perfect in every way, but I think he had a car accident. So his life was wrecked. So Ethan Hawke says, I'll pay you for your blood and urine so I can fake it through, because it's a society where everything is a blood test, a urine test. When you go on a date, you can then rush to a place to have, and if you kiss someone, they take the DNA from your lips and you can find out if you're a match. Like it's this crazy, and when was that movie? That movie's got to be about 20 years old too, right? I mean, look at how young, 1997, 24 years old. Look how young those stars look. Jude Law, I mean, they all still look great. That's a hell of a movie. And it's 24 years later, it still feels fresh and dystopian. All right, it's late. Let me read a couple super chats. Maria IML, $10, thank you. Wayne Knodel, $10. Hey, Ezra, remind everyone to send the free Canada Post postcards to the Prime Minister's office telling Justin Trudeau he's fired. Yeah, that's such a weird initiative. Hey, free postcards. Patriot Linda, Toronto, $5. Rebel News, remove CTV Newsroom and CBC Newsroom from chat room, please. All right, well, we're going to shut her down anyways because it's 1:33. And not everyone likes my movie reviews. I don't care. Thank you for being here today. Justin, thanks for working 90 minutes on the Super Chat. Do we have a dog video or is it? Yeah, we do. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye. Join me tonight at 8 p.m. for my paywall show. And until then, I'll say goodbye. And here's a dog video curated by Justin.
Mm-hmm.